Hello and welcome everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Jerry and he's going to show you a little bit about this and creating these rules through the rules engine, troubleshooting user access, as well as global auditing across your organization. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to Jerry.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason. So I'm showing you now is the WebCenter content UI that when you log into, that you can see real quickly how we get at some of our stuff. Those of you who are familiar with it may have our products. Those who don't, when we add our products to your environment, we end up with options under what's called the Fishbowl tools. And the way to get to the Advanced User Security Mapping UI is through that Fishbowl administration. And there's basically two links around this particular product. One is syncing initiating users, and the other is mapping and defining the rules. So we embed the UI for mapping and managing the rules within the content server experience, so that a power user / admin can be the manager of these rules. Now, in contrast to an LDAP security area who might be managing access and putting names into those various groups through whatever processes or mechanisms you have to open up a ticket or submit a request, we feel that an opportunity to improve the process once people get moved into a certain level of groups is to manage those rules and access through this UI, which should cut down the amount of effort it takes to manage that. So you can add a rule, or you can view the rules as they are listed here, and you can have any number of rules in there. Chances are you're going to have 10, 12, maybe 20 different rules that are applied to access to your environment. There technically is no limit, but you definitely don't want to have a situation where your total cost of managing is just too high in terms of the list of rules, and then you're offsetting the benefit of a rule-based engine. The rules are evaluated in order that you see them on the list here, and they can be enabled or disabled based on just clicking the switch here. They can be copied, and they can be deleted from this list as well. The edit button opens up one of the rules and allows me to configure this particular rule, which is granting admin access to an individual user using a simple format via attribute and performing a grant. Now, when you're working with this experience, the rule format specifies the rule condition, simple or Java. You can put Java code in there. I'll show you what an example one of those looks like here in a minute. You can define the rule type. I want to evaluate on attributes, on group membership, or OU membership. So you can move that up the chain if you like. And your rule condition is just defining how the rule condition is going to be evaluated. In this case, I'm evaluating it by user. I could also evaluate it by department, by group membership, by organizational unit, or some Java rules, and you can see how the mapping of that experience looks like. The result of that rule condition is to grant or deny access to roles or accounts. And these roles or accounts can be pulled from predefined lists that are configured in your content server, or I could add one on the fly. So if you need to add another account or another role, you don't need to go through the process of working with your IT security folks. You can just set that naming up here, so when the content is contributed, then the account can be selected and the access will be provided. Another example of a rule here, as I'll go through a couple, is for those of you who might be IPM or AP type of users and use the annotation feature, you can grant or deny access to the annotation roles that come out of the box with the annotation activity for images. Just to give you a view of the group access, a simple rule for group membership is evaluating the group and looking for the name AD_group_contributor to provide this set of users contributor access to the legal documents for read-write. And while you're in a particular rule, you can test the rule and see whether or not I have access through that process. One of the other ways of looking at rules is a Java example. So when you create the rule, you can use the Java indicator, pick group membership, and just insert Java code into the rule condition. And you can even insert Java code into the roles or accounts area to do that evaluation. smart enough to support that. So like Jason mentioned earlier, one of the big things is around troubleshooting. When you are on the phone with somebody and you got an issue, somebody says, I can't have access to something, I shouldn't have access to something. When you're in an environment, you can see your user profile. You can evaluate the roles and accounts you might have access to. And then you have to usually send a screenshot or cut and paste this over to somebody who's working the ticket. Another way to do that is there are two features that allow us to view what access people have to content within the content server. One is retrieve users with access, which allows me to select by my security group or my security accounts that might be applied to see who has read, write, delete, or admin access. And provide me a list of that and print that or save that list to an Excel spreadsheet so you can share that for validation. And so as you create groups and accounts, they become leveraged within the system. You can then perform this retrieve user access at any time. Another way that people love to look to see who has access is to actually do it by name. So I can look for my particular name. It will give me a predefined list of some matching name that might be in there. You might have other people in your environment. I'll pick myself, and this tells me that I have access, guest access, through roles, contributor and authenticated, and access to accounts none. I can also run this as an evaluation to show you the steps of the evaluation. So if you remember the list of rules you had before, it will evaluate them in the order they were dragged and dropped on the UI and give you the end result of what was granted, what was skipped, and what was removed as part of that process. So the combination of those evaluations end up with what my true access to the content is. All right, Jason, that's everything from my end.
I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and a great week. Thanks again for joining us.